Louisiana isn't just haunted, it's alive with ghosts that refuse to be forgotten. From forgotten plantations to cursed cemeteries. Every corner of this state carries a story carved in blood and moonlight. Tonight, we'll uncover the 15 places where history still walks and the dead never sleep. Route 1, Myrtles Plantation, St. Francisville. They call it one of the most haunted houses in America, and for good reason. Beneath the warm Louisiana sun, the Myrtles Plantation stands in eerie stillness, its moss-draped oaks whispering secrets from centuries past. Visitors swear that when the wind dies, you can still hear the faint sound of footsteps on the veranda, soft, deliberate, and never human. Legend tells of Chloe, a young enslaved woman who worked in the house centuries ago. Caught listening behind a door she wasn't meant to hear. Her ear was cut off as punishment, desperate to win back favor. She baked a birthday cake laced with poison, meant to make the family ill, not dead. But when the mistress and her 2 daughters died that night, the other slaves took revenge, hanging Chloe from a tree by the river. They say her spirit never left. Those who sleep in the old rooms report waking to see a woman in a green turban standing at the foot of their bed, her one-eyed gaze locked upon them. Mirrors fog on their own. Doors creak open in the silence of dawn. And the piano in the parlor sometimes plays a single haunting note, as if announcing she's still there. Skeptics come to debunk the tales, but many leave pale and trembling, refusing to speak of what they heard in the empty halls. The Myrtles Plantation doesn't need to convince anyone of its ghosts, it simply waits. So if you ever find yourself walking past its gates after dark, take a breath and listen carefully. The night might just whisper your name back. St. Louis Cemetery, 1 New Orleans. In the heart of New Orleans, where the air is heavy with jazz and mystery, lies a city of the dead saint. Louis Cemetery No. 1. Behind its crumbling white walls, marble tombs rise like miniature temples, stacked above ground to escape the soggy Louisiana earth. But it's not the architecture that draws the brave and the curious. It's the feeling, the electric charge that grips you the moment you step inside. This is the resting place of Marie Laveau, the legendary voodoo queen of New Orleans. Locals whisper that she never truly died, that her spirit still walks the narrow alleys between tombs, answering the pleas of those who mark XXX on her grave in exchange for favors. Tourists leave offerings beads, coins, cigars, and sometimes the gifts vanish overnight, as if claimed by unseen hands. Visitors speak of shadows gliding between tombs when no one is there, of sudden bursts of perfume thick with rose and tobacco, of whispers in a language long forgotten. Some have captured photos of glowing orbs floating near Marie Laveau's crypt. Others have fainted at the sound of chanting echoing through the stones. Even the caretakers refuse to linger after dusk. They say the line between the living and the dead blurs here, a thin veil separating 2 worlds that occasionally bleed into one another. So if you ever walk through those gates and feel a hand brush your shoulder when no one's behind you, don't turn around. Just whisper a prayer, because in St. Louis Cemetery No. 1, the Queen might be listening. LaLaurie Mansion, New Orleans. At the corner of Royal and Governor Nichols Street stands a grand Creole mansion, beautiful, elegant, and utterly cursed. The LaLaurie Mansion gleams beneath the French Quarter's gaslights, but its walls hold a darkness that time itself cannot wash away. Locals still lower their voices when passing by. For this is where Madame Delphine LaLaurie once lived, a woman whose cruelty turned her home into a house of horrors. In the early 1800s, Madame LaLaurie was the image of New Orleans high society, graceful, refined, adored at lavish parties. But behind closed doors, the screams began. When a fire broke out in 1834, neighbors rushed in and discovered the mansion's terrible secret, a hidden chamber where enslaved people were chained, mutilated, and tortured beyond imagination. The city recoiled in horror. Madame LaLaurie vanished into legend, never to face justice. Since then, the mansion has never known peace. Tenants through the centuries report ghostly cries echoing from the attic, footsteps pacing above empty rooms, and doors slamming shut with furious force. Some say they've seen the figure of a woman in an old silk gown drifting through the halls, her eyes hollow, her hands dripping dark stains that fade into the air. Even the bravest ghost hunters rarely last the night. The air grows heavy, cold, almost alive, as though the house itself remembers. And when the wind rushes through the French Quarter, it carries a whisper from the mansion's shattered soul. She's still here. So, if you pass the LaLaurie Mansion after midnight, do not linger, because once the house notices you, it never forgets. 4. Oak Alley Plantation Vacherie, lined with towering oak trees that twist like ancient guardians. Oak Alley Plantation is breathtaking in daylight and bone-chilling after dark. Beneath the canopy of Spanish moss, whispers ride the wind, and footsteps echo where no one walks. This grand estate, once the pride of the Mississippi River's sugar country, hides a tragic past and the restless souls who refuse to leave it behind. Built in the 1830s, Oak Alley was home to masters and slaves alike, bound by beauty and brutality. The house has seen death, disease, and despair. Yet what lingers is far stranger. Guests often report hearing the rustle of skirts brushing down the hallway or the faint sob of a woman near the second-floor balcony. Some claim to see the figure of a young Creole woman in white, staring out across the endless line of oaks, her face pale with longing, her form vanishing when approached. Staff members have found candles relit after being extinguished, furniture moved during the night, and cold spots that pulse like a heartbeat in the walls. Cameras malfunction, batteries drain instantly, and visitors feel an invisible presence hovering just behind them, breathing faintly against their necks. They say Oak Alley is as much alive as it is dead, a place where beauty and sorrow are eternally entwined. The ghosts here do not rage, they remember. So if you ever walk beneath those arches of oak at dusk, when the sun bleeds red over the river, look closely toward the veranda. You might just catch the silhouette of someone waiting, someone who's been waiting for centuries. 5. Old State Capitol Building, Baton Rouge. The Gothic spires of the old state capitol rise above Baton Rouge like a castle from another world, proud, beautiful, and haunted by the echoes of Louisiana's turbulent past. Inside those iron gates, history breathes through every corridor. But when night falls, history starts whispering back. The grand staircase glows beneath stained glass windows, and yet many who climb it swear they feel watched, as if unseen eyes are following their every step. Built in the 1840s, the Capitol survived war, fire, and ruin. It witnessed governors rise and fall, and soldiers march to their deaths. But the most famous spirit said to linger here is Sarah Morgan, a Civil War diarist whose sorrow still clings to the air. Visitors say they've seen her drifting through the rotunda in a flowing white gown, gazing toward the Mississippi as though searching for something she lost long ago. Security guards have heard voices calling their names from empty rooms, the sound of heavy boots pacing the marble floors, and doors slamming shut with no wind to move them. Even the chandeliers have been known to sway violently in total silence. Some say the Capitol isn't haunted, it's simply remembering. The building has absorbed too much grief, too many secrets to ever rest. So when you stand beneath its glowing dome, listen closely. You might hear a woman's faint whisper weaving through the echoing halls. Don't forget us. And in that moment, you'll understand the old state capitol is not a museum of ghosts. It is a living memory that refuses to die. 6. Dauphine Orléans Hotel New Orleans. In the shadowed heart of the French Quarter, the Dauphine Orléans Hotel hides behind flickering gas lamps, graceful, historic, and haunted by tales of forbidden love and restless spirits. Guests come for its charm, but stay frozen by the feeling that someone or something is watching them from the corners of their room. During the 1800s, the building served as a brothel known as May Bailey's Place. Soldiers, lovers, and outlaws passed through its doors, leaving behind whispers that refuse to fade. The most famous ghost is Millie, a young courtesan who fell in love with a Confederate soldier. He never returned from war, and when the news reached her, she ended her life in despair. They say Millie still waits for him in room 315, her perfume drifting through the air, her laughter echoing faintly down empty hallways. Staff have seen her shadow glide past mirrors, heard doors click open in locked rooms, and watched curtains flutter when the air is perfectly still. Sometimes, guests wake to see a figure in white lace seated at the edge of the bed, her face hidden beneath cascading curls, disappearing the moment they blink. The hotel embraces its history. But when the jazz fades and Bourbon Street grows quiet, an older melody takes over, soft, mournful, and full of longing. So if you ever check into the Dauphine Orleans and feel the bed sheets stir in the still air, don't be afraid. It's only Millie, waiting for the lover who never came home. The 7th, Hotel Provincial New Orleans, hidden behind ivy-covered walls in the French Quarter. The Hotel Provincial looks serene, almost sacred, but beneath its charm lies the echo of a darker past. Long before it became a hotel, these buildings served as a Confederate hospital during the Civil War. Blood once stained the stone floors, and the cries of the dying filled the humid Louisiana nights. Today, those cries still linger, trapped between the bricks and the years. Guests have reported waking in the dead of night to see ghostly figures in tattered gray uniforms, their faces pale, their wounds still fresh. Some stumble into their rooms, collapsing onto the bed before vanishing entirely, leaving only the smell of iron and gunpowder behind. Housekeepers tell stories of beds that rumple on their own, doors that lock and unlock with no key, and elevators that stop at empty floors. One woman described walking into her room to find it transformed, the wallpaper gone. The furniture vanished, replaced by flickering lanterns and rows of blood-soaked cots. For a few seconds, she stood inside the past, watching nurses move frantically through the haze. Then, as suddenly as it appeared, the vision dissolved. Management insists there's nothing to fear. but the hotel keeps its secrets well. The Provincial is beautiful. Yes, but beauty can't hide the weight of sorrow soaked into its walls. So if you ever spend a night there, and the silence grows too deep, listen closely. You might hear the faint murmur of a soldier's last prayer, still unanswered after more than a century. 8. Ellerbe Road School, Shreveport. At the edge of Shreveport, down a cracked and forgotten road, stands the ruins of Ellerbe Road School, a place so consumed by silence it almost feels alive. Locals call it Satan School, though no one can say exactly why. The building, long abandoned, is little more than crumbling walls and broken windows now. Yet those who dare to enter at night swear the halls are still full of voices. The story goes that years ago, a fire tore through the school late one evening. Some say it was an accident. Others whisper that something darker began it, a ritual gone wrong, a curse born in the basement. The flames consumed everything, and when the smoke cleared, the students and teachers were gone. No bodies were ever found. Since then, the site has been avoided, its name spoken only in warnings. Ghost hunters report hearing children laughing faintly down the corridors, the sound suddenly twisting into screams. Flashlights flicker uncontrollably. Batteries drain in seconds, and shadows dart across doorways when no one is there. Some visitors claim to smell burning paper or hear the faint ring of a classroom bell, echoing from somewhere deep inside. Police have been called countless times to investigate lights seen moving through the ruins, yet every time they arrive, the place is empty. Still, those who've stood there under the moon say they felt the air growing colder, the dread thickening as though the school is waiting to be remembered. If you ever go looking for the truth on Ellerbe Road, don't go alone. The children are still there, and they don't like visitors. Birka 9. Parlange Plantation House, New Roads, just outside the quiet town of New Roads. The Parlange Plantation sits in unsettling beauty, its white columns gleaming under the Louisiana sun, its reflection rippling across the bayou. Yet, as dusk falls, the charm fades, and a deep stillness takes hold, heavy with memory and regret. Locals say this house remembers everything: the laughter, the heartbreak, and the screams that once echoed through its halls. The most haunting tale is that of a young Creole bride, abandoned on her wedding night. Her fiancé vanished before the ceremony, leaving her waiting beneath the grand oaks in her gown, clutching a bouquet that withered in her hands. When the truth came that he had been killed in a duel defending her honor, she locked herself away in her room and never emerged again. Days later, they found her lifeless body, still wearing the dress. A single tear dried upon her cheek. Since then, her spirit is said to wander the balconies, her white gown fluttering in the night breeze, her footsteps echoing faintly above the parlor. Visitors have seen her face reflected in old mirrors, pale and sorrowful, before it vanishes like mist. Others swear they've heard the soft hum of a wedding waltz drifting from the empty ballroom and the melody of a dance that never happened. The house stands silent now, but the air carries her story of love promised, love lost, and love that refused to die. So if you pass by Parlange Plantation when the moonlight cuts through the Spanish moss, don't mistake that flicker in the window for candlelight. It might just be the bride, still waiting for a wedding that never came. Nasa 10. The Mortuary, New Orleans. On the edge of Canal Street stands a towering mansion with a past that chills even the most skeptical soul, the Mortuary. Its ornate facade and stained glass windows might look like a relic of old New Orleans elegance. But this building was once a funeral home. Thousands of bodies passed through its halls for nearly a century, each leaving behind a whisper, a shadow, a trace of something unfinished. The moment you step inside, the air feels colder, thick, heavy, alive. Visitors describe an unshakable sense of being followed, as if the walls themselves are watching. Lights flicker even when the power is steady, and whispers echo from the embalming room below, where tables still stand beneath rusted chains. The scent of formaldehyde sometimes drifts through the halls, though the building hasn't seen a corpse in decades. During its haunted attraction season, workers have reported real screams blending with the staged ones' voices that come from nowhere, calling their names in the dark. Security cameras capture faint human shapes moving across locked rooms, and equipment fails without explanation. A caretaker once swore he heard the faint sound of a heartbeat through the floor, steady, slow, impossibly real. Today, the mortuary is a monument to both death and spectacle. But long after the crowds leave and the laughter fades, something remains pacing, waiting, remembering. So if you ever visit and feel a hand brush against yours in the dark, don't panic. It's only one of the thousands who never left, still reaching for the living, one heartbeat at a time. 7. USS Kidd, Baton Rouge, moored along the banks of the Mississippi River. The USS Kidd looks every bit the proud warship she once was, steel gray, stoic and silent. But when night falls, that silence turns uneasy. The deck groans as if under unseen boots, and a faint metallic clang rings through the corridors, like the ghosts of sailors still performing their watch. Launched during World War II, the Kidd saw fierce battles across the Pacific, losing many men to enemy fire and explosions. It's said that some of them never truly left their ship. Visitors walking her narrow passageways report cold bursts of air and sudden whispers echoing through the mess hall. Some hear the rhythmic tap of Morse code coming from the radio room, though the equipment hasn't worked in decades. One former night guard swore he saw a young sailor standing by the gun deck, cap tilted, staring out at the dark river. When he called out, the figure turned and vanished in a shimmer of gray mist. Others have felt a firm hand on their shoulder, as if guiding them away from danger. Yet, when they turn, they're alone. Even the museum staff admit the ship has moods sometimes calm, sometimes restless. On stormy nights, they claim to hear the alarm bells ring on their own, and the sound of men shouting orders from deep within the hull. The USS Kidd may be anchored now, but her spirit still sails trapped in an endless patrol between this world and the next. So if you ever step aboard after dusk, tread softly. The crew is still on duty. 12. Houmas House Estate and Gardens, Darrow, nestled along the Mississippi River. The Houmas House Estate glows with southern grandeur, a mansion of white columns, lush gardens, and quiet grace. But when the sun dips below the oaks and the cicadas fall silent, a different kind of beauty awakens, the kind that chills the air and stirs the dead. For beneath its charm, the Houmas house is said to host spirits who have never moved on from its gilded halls. The most enduring tale is that of a little girl named Annie, who died on the property long ago. Guests and staff alike have reported seeing her, a delicate figure in a blue dress, skipping through the gardens or peering out from an upstairs window. Some hear her soft laughter echoing near the grand staircase, followed by the faint creak of a rocking chair moving on its own. She's playful, curious, and heartbreakingly lonely. But Annie isn't alone. Visitors have claimed to see shadowy figures gliding across the balconies, chandeliers swaying when no wind blows, and antique mirrors fogging over with handprints that vanish moments later. Even seasoned workers admit that certain rooms grow inexplicably cold, as if unseen eyes linger just beyond the candlelight. Still, despite its hauntings, there's something peaceful about Houmas' house, as if its spirits are guardians rather than prisoners. Yet, when the night is still and the moonlight spills across the fountain, some swear they hear a soft voice whisper, "Stay a little longer." If you do, you might just find that the living aren't the only ones who call Houmas' house home. E3. Calcasieu Courthouse, Lake Charles. In the heart of Lake Charles stands the Calcasieu Parish Courthouse, majestic by day, but haunted by night. The marble steps gleam under the streetlights, yet many who climb them after dusk swear the air grows thick, the silence heavy, as though the building itself is listening. For within these walls, a young woman met her fate, and her spirit has never left. Her name was Toni Jo Henry, the only woman ever executed in Calcasieu Parish. In 1942, she was sentenced to death for murder. She was young, beautiful, defiant, and even as the electric chair claimed her, witnesses said she smiled. But after her execution, strange things began to happen. Guards reported lights flickering in the execution chamber, the smell of her perfume drifting through locked corridors, and the echo of footsteps pacing the hall when no one was there. Today, courthouse staff often refuse to stay late. Elevators move between floors on their own. Files scatter across empty offices, and doors slam shut without warning. One janitor claimed he heard a woman softly laughing near the judge's bench, only to find the room dark and empty. Cameras malfunction. Recordings pick up faint whispers, a woman's voice, clear and chilling. "I'm still here." Locals believe Toni Jo never accepted her sentence, that she lingers in the courthouse, trapped between guilt and innocence, justice and vengeance. So if you ever walk through those halls after dark and feel the temperature drop, don't look back. Some verdicts, it seems, are never truly final. Routine, Magnolia Plantation, Natchitoches, deep in the heart of Natchitoches Parish, surrounded by moss-draped trees and the hum of the Louisiana night, stands Magnolia Plantation, a place where time has withered, but sorrow has not. The air here feels thick, heavy with stories whispered by those who once lived, worked, and died on this haunted land. Built in the 1830s, Magnolia was one of the South's largest cotton plantations and one of its bloodiest. The Civil War ravaged the estate, and the fields once alive with labor became silent graveyards. Enslaved people were forced back to rebuild after the flames, and many never left. Locals say that on moonless nights, you can still hear the clink of chains echoing through the trees, and see shadowy figures bending to invisible crops in the mist. Visitors to the old slave quarters describe hearing soft singing in the darkness, mournful hymns that fade as they draw near. Others have captured strange orbs of light dancing above the fields, or heard the distant crack of a whip carried on the wind. Inside the big house, furniture shifts on its own. Candles relight after being snuffed out, and a faint scent of smoke, like the one from the great fire, lingers in the hallways. But the most unsettling presence is said to be that of a tall man in tattered gray clothing, seen near the overseer's house. His eyes glow faintly in the dark, and he vanishes the moment you speak his name. Locals say he guards the land not to protect it, but to ensure no one forgets what happened here. Magnolia Plantation isn't just haunted, it remembers. And when you walk its grounds, beneath the same trees that witnessed centuries of pain, you might feel a hand brush yours gentle, pleading a reminder that some spirits aren't seeking vengeance, only to be heard. 15. The Old Absinthe House, New Orleans. At the corner of Bourbon and Bionville streets, where laughter and jazz spill endlessly into the night, stands a bar older than memory itself, the Old Absinthe House. Its wooden beams have absorbed centuries of secrets, and beneath the clinking of glasses and the hum of conversation, something else stirs, something that refuses to fade. Since the early 1800s, this French Quarter landmark has hosted pirates, politicians, and poets, and, if stories are to be believed, their ghosts as well. Legend says Jean Lafitte, the infamous pirate of the Gulf, met here with General Andrew Jackson to plan the defense of New Orleans. Patrons claim the two men never left. After midnight, when the bar empties and the music dies, voices echo from the upstairs rooms low, urgent whispers as if strategy meetings continue long after death. Bartenders have seen bottles slide across the counter unaided, chairs scrape backward as though pulled by invisible hands, and glasses shatter without reason. The scent of anise and smoke sometimes fills the air, even when no one is drinking absinthe. Some nights, a shadow appears behind the bar mirror, the outline of a man with a wide-brimmed hat, before dissolving into the glass. Tourists laugh off the tales, but locals know better. The Old Absinthe House has seen too much revelry, too much sin, too much history to ever rest quietly. So if you stop in for a drink and feel a cold breath brush your neck, don't turn around. Just raise your glass, because you might be toasting alongside ghosts who never paid their final tab. The deeper you go into Louisiana's haunted heart, the more you realize the ghosts here aren't just stories. They're memories that breathe. But these 15 places, they're only the beginning. In the next episode, we'll step inside America's most cursed mansions, where the walls themselves whisper, if you felt a chill tonight, don't scroll away. Hit subscribe and follow us into the dark. The next haunting awaits.